You're watching The World from Below. I'm Lizzie O'Shea. Tonight we're joined by Fiona McCormack. Fiona is the Chief Executive Officer of Domestic Violence Victoria, the peak body for women and children's family violence services in Victoria. DVVic's mission is to lead the Victorian community in building safer lives for women and children experiencing or at risk of violence. Fiona, what are the priority actions needed to address domestic violence?
Okay, so in our campaign we've listed 25 asks and they fall under 5 themes. So the first one is we really need to keep women and children housed. So because we see so many women and children are homeless as a result of family violence, and that usually catapults them into long-term and chronic homelessness and poverty, we're really wanting actions that support them to remain in their homes so that kids don't have their education disrupted, dislocation from their community, sporting activities, those sorts of things. The second one is we really need to improve justice responses. So we consulted with women on their experience of the justice system last year, and it was really apparent that their experiences varied from really great to dismal. So we really need to ensure that there's a level of consistency there, that women understand the process, that they have enough support and information to go through that process in a more informed way. The third one is we really need to build a more sophisticated system around perpetrator accountability, as I was saying earlier. We need to break down the silos in the service system that prevents us from working more holistically. So it's not just about the funding, it's actually about government driving a more comprehensive and whole of government approach to this, and seeing this as a responsibility of more than one minister. And the other thing that we need to do is we need to invest in preventing violence from occurring in the first place. This is really, really critical, challenging the very complex and cultural dynamics that support the conditions that allows violence against women to flourish.
I mean, you did say that it's not just a problem of money, which I think is perhaps a surprise to people who often hear about it in terms of money spent or invested in these programs. Tell us what you think is needed beyond just the dollars.
We often think about the what, we don't necessarily think about the how. And so there is so much more we could be doing with the current capacity if we actually had government working with us. So for example, we could be doing a lot more in monitoring men who are risk to others if our efforts were joined with, say, corrections with parole officers, if it was joined more comprehensively with courts and police. So and a whole range of different supports for women around homelessness, that sort of thing. We need to be working more consistently and comprehensively together because it won't just be addressed just through women's services providing a response to women and children. We need a lot more. It's often about policy joining up. You know, we often have policy for different ministerial portfolios. If we were looking at each of those policies through the lens, particularly of perpetrator accountability, we could be doing a lot more.
So Domestic Violence Victoria is also focused on the media as part of the strategy to educate the community about violence against women. Can you tell us a bit about why you think the media is so important in this setting?
Look, the media plays such an important role in shaping community attitudes, and what we've seen is media doing a far more I think we've seen a really a vastly improved quality of reporting of violence against women on violence when it's already occurred. I think the challenge now is to how we can encourage reporting and support reporting that really unpacks the causes of violence against women.
I think it was interesting this week on Twitter, there's been a hashtag that's been trending called Why I Stayed, talking about a high profile case of domestic violence that was videotaped by an NFL footballer in the United States. What role do you think social media has in sometimes breaking down some of these assumptions that we make about domestic violence?
I think it's brilliant. You know, we can absolutely use social media. It's such a powerful way for everyday people to be able to express their views and also their experiences, and we're learning from the expertise of women who have actually been through this. So really, really important. It's such a powerful tool.
And tell us, what is the role of police in these environments as well, in responses to domestic violence?
Yeah, look, we're so lucky to have somebody like Ken Lay leading our police force, who's, he's not just providing leadership in improved police responding, but really challenging sexist attitudes. And that's really what we need from men across our community, speaking out in relation to sexism when they see it happening. But cultural change is slow, and I guess the police force is only a reflection of the broader community, and we have a very diverse community. And really, in terms of understanding the causes and the dynamics of family violence, I would say as a community we're really back in the 1950s. When I see Mad Men and you see them drinking at work and smoking in front of children, all that sorts of things, I think that's really where we are in terms of attitudes to violence against women. And my hope is in the not too distant future we will see sexist attitudes, minimisation of violence against women as something as equivalent to, say, driving without a seatbelt or, smoking in front of children, those sorts of things.
It's interesting what you're talking about men standing up to sexism and being part of the solution, as well as obviously often the cause of the problem, and particularly that in relation to police. What would you say to men who are perhaps thinking about their own behaviour and how they can fight the problem of violence against women?
Well, obviously not all men choose to use violence. And I think some men think that they have to wait until they see some sort of violent incident on the street before they can actually step in and do something, and that's not the case. Where they can really, really play a powerful role is in challenging sexist attitudes. I think what we need to do is build a stronger understanding of the links between sexism and violence against women, just in the same way we need to strengthen people's understanding of the links between, say, racism and race-related violence, or homophobia and homophobic-related violence. Men challenging other men on sexism, sexist jokes, sexist language, sexist behaviour, men role modelling respectful attitudes towards women in their families, in their workplaces. These are powerful, powerful symbols. And in the same way, when we justify men's violence, that sends a really, really strong message to men who choose to use violence that the community actually supports them. It actually reinforces. So I think we have to take very, very careful consideration when we are making excuses for men who kill their children or kill their partner. It's never, ever okay to harm or take the life of a child. It's never okay to harm or take the life of a woman.
And that's all we have time for on this week's episode of The World from Below. I'd like to thank our guest, Fiona McCormack from Domestic Violence Victoria. I would also like to thank all our crew and cast here at RMI TV. You've been watching The World from Below. Thanks for joining us.